I'm resident of Collinwood, Joel Sains for YouTube. That's my buddy Alan Gallant. That's my buddy Patrick McCray. We're here to review the movie Star Wars from 1977. Yes, yes, the original Star Wars. God fucking damn it. So this is stars Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford. I mean, it's not like there's been a bunch of Star Wars movies. Oh, wait, there have been.
But they were in 1977. There was only
one. Yeah. George Lucas was a freaking genius. An outer space western in every way, with cool laser swords. So, first question: when did you guys first see Star Wars, Patrick?
I saw it opening day, May 20, whatever. Opening day in Louisville, Kentucky, on a Cinerama-sized screen, 1,000-seat theater. The
awesome
Mammoth number 4 at
awesome
Showcase
way to
Cinemas.
see a movie like that.
It was unbelievable.
May 25th. Yep. This one. Alan, when did you first see it?
Saw it about a week or two after it opened. A bunch of us from my high school got together and went to see it. I think there were 4 of us that went to see it. We had a few beers ahead of time, a few contraband beers, and then went to see.
Had you heard the buzz?
Yes, we had heard the buzz because it was a week or two into it. Yeah, absolutely, we had heard the buzz. Yeah, and we were a little buzzed when we went to see it, so it was fun.
Yeah, I saw this as a kid in my house, so really, really good movie. What? I'm trying to think of a question. What do you think the most important decision was in the original Star Wars movie? Do you think?
Great question.
Yeah, seriously.
Because it changed forms so many times before it even made it to the screen.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to tell. I think making it lowish budget,
yeah,
even though it doesn't look it, with a group of real outsiders, stem to stern, kind of the Easy Rider of science fiction. Fighting with the studio, begging for a little more time, things like that. Cosmically probably was the thing. If he had tried making it within the studio system with lots of interference, a Dick Zanuck or somebody like that, I think would have been a problem. I don't think it would have been as good, but it really doesn't look or feel like any other movie made up to that point.
No.
And I think that is a tribute to it really maintaining his outsider status. Even the stars, he could have gotten bigger stars, but he didn't.
No, he had one big. He had one established.
Well, Alec Guinness. Yeah, and if you're going to get one big star,
they were up and coming, and they'd done stuff, but they weren't stars yet.
Yeah, I love it that the fact that the two biggest stars in this movie are Alec Guinness and James Earl Jones. Because that's a movie I would see anyway.
Yes, absolutely. And weirdly, I had only seen one movie of either of them by the time I saw Star Wars, and that was The Great White Hope.
Okay.
That was it. I had not seen anything that Alec Guinness had done when I was 17 years old. That came a few years later. It was
second Alec Guinness movie I saw, which, Joel, is a movie you would really enjoy if you haven't seen it. We would have a good time talking about it. It's called Murdered by Death.
Yeah. Yes.
And he's wonderful in that too. He made that right after Star Wars. And when I was a kid, because your sense of faces and all that aren't that great. I refused to believe that the butler was Alec Guinness. I thought Alec Guinness was David Niven, because David Niven behaved in a more Obi-Wan-like fashion. I had a hard time wrapping my mind around that.
Yes.
Don't forget Peter Cushing is in this movie.
That's true. My mistake.
And he is the bad guy.
Another star, established British star in particular, but he'd also done several American movies at this point.
Yeah. Told John Carpenter they're making movies about me now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God.
Your first question was about what the most important thing was. To me, the most important thing was retaining through all the changes and everything else the hero's journey, which made the mythology really powerful. And that includes the reluctant hero and the not so reluctant hero.
And it was, I think it was the first time the hero's journey had consciously been used as a model rather than the hero's journey being modeled after these movies. And that it was like grappa.
It was conscious, not subconscious.
Yeah. But it was like grappa. It was just super distilled.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. And they kept it simple. They kept it straightforward, I should say, not necessarily simple.
That's right.
Straightforward. So yeah, that's to me, that was one of the most important things about this movie. Why it just permeated the zeitgeist.
I'll go out on a limb here because I did a lot of thinking about this movie around the time that Rise of Skywalker came out, which is a movie I liked.
I liked it too.
Okay, good. Yeah, now Jewel, I know you liked it. We had a good talk about it with Mark. Mm-hmm. And it really got a drubbing, and it's about a space devil.
Right.
Give it up. It's just classic Jack Kirby.
Right.
But
it's also about like that prodigal son thing is in there. The old reluctant hero returns. All this stuff is in there.
It's marvelous, and Billy D. Williams laughing just like a madman, hysterically the whole time. I mean, I really think he lost his mind at that point. Constantly. I loved everything about it.
I think he also realized this was a great payday to go out on because
yes.
Oh my God,
Billy took care of a lot of credit card debt with this one.
Buy a lot of Colt 45.
He can, and he deserves it.
Yes.
So God bless Billy D. Williams. I love that guy. I just love him
too. I think
he's so anyway, but I did a lot of thinking about this movie, and I talked to a lot of people about it, and I was dating a girl at the time who had never seen any of the Star Wars movies. She had avoided them. Whatever, her parents weren't into them or something like that. And she was working as at an AMC as an usherette and selling popcorn and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she had invited me to see it with her, but I'd already seen it earlier that night. And but I got a text that just made my heart swell. Because she'd been so anti-Star Wars, and she still hasn't seen a James Bond movie, as far as I know. I haven't talked to her in years. But she sent me a text, and I teared up. And it was during that, and she said, "Patrick, I need to ask you one question." And I said, "What?" She said, "Are they all this good?" And just how humble, and how open-hearted.
She just released the mantle of edgelord about it, just instantaneously. She
really did.
And she was honest.
She really did.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I did a lot of thinking about it. And for my money, plays and movies can be done very organically and be wonderful. My Dinner with Andre or something like that. Or they can, in a very Eugene Scribe sense, be mechanical and still work. You go back and look at Scribe's first well-made play, Called a Glass of Water. It still works. It's a good play.
Yeah.
And as mechanical as Star Wars is, following the hero's journey and very, tab A into slot B, given that, I think there are better movies, Smokey and the Bandit Part 3, for instance, but I don't know if there is a more perfectly made, perfectly constructed, perfectly timed, perfectly assembled motion picture. I think it may be one of the most perfect movies ever made.
And perfectly released. It was just, everything about it was right at the time.
It really, really, really just as a storytelling machine. And I don't mean that in a cold antiseptic sense.
Right.
It's
efficient.
Works.
It's efficient. It's very economical in the way that it approaches it. And the thing that's the wild card, which is true in almost any film, what you don't know as when you're making a film whether it's going to be good or a hit or whatever, is the chemistry between the performers. It's it's unmistakable. And I mean, it was off the set too in many cases. They got along really well.
They did.
Loved each other. They got pissed at each other. All sorts of things happened in the actual movie.
The ace in George Lucas's hole, though, was Marshall. Because I've read any of the stuff. the screenplay is structured a little differently.
Yeah.
And she came in and just cleaned house,
Right.
really restructured the plot so that events were, so that no one event was taking, the family took forever to get to, the droids on Tatooine and
She
so on.
made it move. Yeah, she made it move.
Boy, she really did. And she modulated it so it was popping back and forth for at least the beginning, and then went back into it in earnest.
You need somebody that's a good technical storyteller for a screenplay. Absolutely. Absolutely. Creative, but also understanding of what works and what doesn't work in terms of that flow and pace.
Now, call me crazy, I still would have enjoyed. I'm not making the haha. At that age, I would have enjoyed Jim Varney as Luke Skywalker.
At that age, yeah.
Yeah, I think it would have been really good.
Absolutely. And not only that, but Varney was a serious actor. He did Shakespeare and did all that stuff. So he had range. He just
That's what I'm talking
became
about.
famous for this, know what I mean, burn character.
But he had a look. He had this burning look.
Yeah.
And I can see Luke going to that.
Yes.
That just is a very Eastern Kentucky. I mean, no fooling around at this moment.
Yeah.
And that would have been a look, because he also does Innocent so well. That would have been a look that just would have made the entire audience shit in their pants in the best sense.
Right. Yeah. No, he was. Jim Varney was more than the sum of his famous role. That's for darn sure. I've actually seen. Well, I think there's some stuff up on YouTube, video of him performing in plays, and it's revelatory.
He's an excellent actor and a great commedia actor.
Yeah.
Because it's a commedia type part.
Yeah.
How to George Lucas? How important was Forbidden Planet and Star Trek before Star Wars, you think?
This is a different type of science fiction.
Right.
That's science fiction. This is science fantasy.
Yeah.
And I think, frankly, Cornell Wilde jungle movies and things like that probably were more influential on him.
Okay.
Kurosawa.
Yeah. Very unknown cast for Mark Hamill. Harrison Ford hasn't yet played Indiana Jones. That comes later. Carrie Fisher, which she's from Hollywood royalty a bit, so with her mom.
Not his first choice.
No, not his first
Cindy
choice.
Williams. I think Cindy was signed to do the movie. It was a real Pierce Brosnan type royal screw. Yeah. She was signed to do the movie, and ABC was doing too well with Laverne and Shirley, and wanted her a month early, and so she couldn't get out of the contract.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I see Gary Marshall going, Cindy, you can't go. We can't interrupt the flow. The money's coming in. That would have been it. That's typical television stuff. The same thing happened to Magnum PI.
Yeah.
Tom Selleck. Yeah, he was supposed to play Indiana Jones.
Yes. Yeah. And he was also a shoo-in for it, but he couldn't break his contract.
Yeah.
He didn't want to. They said don't break your contract.
He could have.
Yeah, he could have.
And I think if he had known what the movie was going to do, he would.
He might have done so. Yeah, but it would have been taking a high risk with his career, a super high risk with his career. I think. NBC. Well, I gave him my word. I signed the contract. So there's that too.
He had a really good movie career though too. His movies.
He dovetailed into westerns for years.
Yeah,
he did some great little western movies.
Yeah.
Put Me Down Under is a fun movie, thanks to Laura San Giacomo, and
Lassiter.
Lassiter's okay.
Lassiter's okay. High Road to China's okay.
It's okay, but it's fun because it's
no Raiders of the Lost Ark.
No, but it's a meringue romance adventure. It's kind of.
I saw all of Tom's movies in theaters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Except for In and Out, where he basically plays himself.
Right.
So there's a very Western-like atmosphere in this movie as well.
Yes.
That have Han Solo shooting first, obviously, which is a very quick draw. Then what did you guys think of it being an outer space western in a way?
There are
I was not. I'm sorry, Alan.
there are parallels. I mean, you've got you got a princess who is like ballsy, like Annie Oakley.
Yeah,
You
Jane
know, you've
Russell.
got that going on. You've got the gunslinger cowboy who has a cowardly streak in him, but he when it comes down to it, he'll do it. And you got the young buck who's idealistic, at least at first, and
You got Ricky
gets it
Nelson,
in
Dean
love
Martin.
with his sister, which is plays a goof on that particular theme. So you've got some Western themes in there, and of course, it's a larger scale to be considered an outer space Western, though, I think, because it's so large a scale. And Westerns usually are small scale. It's on a ranch, it's in a town, it's that kind of thing. So you've got bigger things happening there, but there are elements.
I have to be told it's an outer space western
Mm-hmm.
for me to go back and go, yeah, well, oh yeah, it is. To me, the more outer space western, and maybe the more successful movie in some ways, is Battle Beyond the Stars, which is Magnificent Seven.
Yes. Yeah.
Jewel, have you ever seen Battle Beyond the Stars?
Nope, never saw it.
You, as a guy who talks westerns a lot and likes science fiction, this is a movie you would love. It's written by John Sayles, so he's one of the greatest screenwriters we have alive.
Yes.
Back when he was working for Roger Corman, and it was a Star Wars
Which is one of the
ripoff.
greatest directors we had until he
Yes,
passed away.
and it, but he knows how to write a B movie
Yeah.
really well. I mean, he wrote Alligator. He wrote a killer treatment for Jurassic Park 4. Where the dinosaurs had been militarized. They
Right.
were cybernetically controlled, and it's just really fantastic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And but also a very serious writer. So he brought this serious insight into the B movie structure, kind of like Joe Lansdale. And then would do the opposite. He'd take a serious movie and he would give it just a little twist here and there that would keep you coming back and keep you wanting to see more of it. It was James Cameron's first gig doing sets, and it was an amazing cast. Sybil Danning and Richard Thomas and Robert Vaughn, George Papard, but it's Magnificent Seven.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very much so. And Jewel, I guarantee you would really like this movie.
Yeah. Have you ever seen The Great Silence? The movie The Great Silence?
We've experienced it many times awkwardly.
Yes,
Recording this.
but I've never seen it. I only felt it.
It's a snow western. It's really good. Now, if you have the 2K version, you could put the happy ending on the movie, but it does have an ambiguous ending. Very good.
Was the happy ending more hands-on?
Well, funny story about that is people get shot in the hand a lot in that movie. So yeah.
Someone shot.
So yeah.
At the end of the happy ending.
3 shots.
I really do, and even though Alec Guinness's character doesn't have like a lot, like he dies less than halfway through this movie, I think.
Yes, but he's
Star
a Force
Wars?
Ghost forever.
Right? Yeah.
He never
Oh,
really
he dies at the beginning of the last quarter of the movie.
Yeah. But his character is ever so important throughout the franchise. What did you guys think of that idea of killing off Alec Guinness, and here's the young protege who hasn't learned too much, but
it's part of the ritual.
But yeah, it becomes part of the ritual. What did you think?
Well, it's part of the ritual. I mean, in the Campbell's hero's journey, the death of the mentor is a key figure, because otherwise, responsibly, Obi-Wan would get into one of those starfighters.
Yeah.
He's not too old to operate one of those because,
Right.
It's all automated. Was he getting his AARP card out and, the backup camera? So he didn't have to turn around and look. It has to happen to catalyze Luke into taking on all of the responsibility himself. And that's how these things always go. The mentor always dies or is incapacitated, or
goes away.
Miyagi can't
Yeah.
go in and fight the little fascist kid. Ralph has to. And that is, as James Whale says, one of my favorite phrases, it's part of the ritual. You have to do it. Now, I'll tell you, I think there's a fish story going on. And it has to do with how the end of Empire Strikes Back was shot. The story is that they kept the ending under wraps because they didn't want it getting out. I think it's a shitty ending. I don't think it makes a goddamn bit of sense. Darth Vader is Odd Job. And imagine that James Bond is told, Odd Job is your father.
Yeah.
That Bond would just sort of be like, okay,
No.
I don't really know Vader that well. I don't have that much connection. He's a bad guy, but Darth Vader's my father. But Obi-Wan said this. Well, that's not the line they shot.
Right.
I think the line they shot was much more interesting and would have made a much more interesting Return of the Jedi. And they really screwed over the audience by going for a more sensationalistic, and I'm your father. Who cares? Exactly. The line that the line that they shot is really good.
Yeah.
Really good. I mean, just give me chills. He says there's a sale at Penny's, and they leave. No. The line that was shot was, Luke, there's something you need to know. Obi-Wan killed your father.
Yeah, Mark Hamill was talking about this.
And the reaction Hamill gives is the reaction that you would give to someone who has this emotional connection with Obi-Wan and all that. That's not true. That's not possible. For me, that's much more, I mean, like, oh, I am your father. It's like, well, someone had to be. Let's talk about this later, but right now, don't you have to chop off my hand or something? I just don't think his reaction would be as strong. He didn't have that kind of relationship, so to speak, with Darth Vader. It's not that kind of thing.
Yeah, he probably would have gone like, give me a break,
Okay.
and gone back to fighting.
So I guess it's not all mechanical in there. Yeah, I love that ending. When I heard about that a few years ago, and I was like, wow.
They just overdubbed it, right? That's all they did.
Yeah,
they actually shot it that way, but then they overdubbed it. Yeah.
And well, yeah, they don't have to dub anything because you can't see his lines, his mouth moving.
Right.
So yeah, I don't think they changed anything with Hamill. They just had James Earl Jones do this other thing. And I think they saw which one tested better.
Yeah.
But to me, Obi-Wan killed your father. That's a mystery I want to solve.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Hamill, I was listening to the interview Mark Hamill had given about this, and he said George Lucas handed him the script, and it was just him and George, or somebody had handed it was somebody, either him or somebody else, and he said I know about this, George Lucas knows about this, and now you know about this. So if you tell, we'll know you told. And he goes, the script. He goes, originally, the script was supposed to be that Darth Vader was going to reveal that that Obi-Wan had killed Luke's dad, but as like the way Hamill tells it, it's weird. So I'll leave a link in the description.
I've seen the interviews. I just think that may be a little bit of Hollywood tale-telling.
Yeah, it's really interesting. But then he says when he looked at the script, he said, "Is this true? Is this true that Darth's my dad?" He goes, "Well, you got to search your feelings." It's like, okay. So yeah, that's just crazy.
Yeah, I think that to shoot it that way would have been difficult because basically Hamill would have nothing to go on for his character in terms of an attachment. The only thing he could have done was to basically, no, you're a liar, and that's it. He couldn't have had any other layer to that response.
Well, he does.
Disbelief. Why would you believe him?
Yeah, he does say in the movie, no, that's not true.
Yes.
And he says, search your feelings. And he's like, when he says no, it's like he did search his feelings. And then it's like, is it one of the best twists in a movie? Yeah, it is.
Well, the reason that he had, but that's because he has something to go on. Because when they shot it, they had him say that he killed your father. So that had more depth, I think, of feeling than it would have if he had just said they just dubbed in Earl Jones saying, "I am your father."
Yeah.
That's not how they had what's his name, who's playing the role during the shoot. They didn't have him say that. They had him say, "Obi-Wan kills your father."
Yeah.
So that gave him something to freak out about, I think, more.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting for Empire Strikes Back because there's no the only story you hear from Obi-Wan's perspective is that Luke Skywalker's dad was a great pilot and a great Jedi and like a good friend. And you do hear that, yeah, it was Darth Vader who killed his dad. So it's like, okay. It's like, all
I
right.
think maybe that's the reason they decided to do it, that they just didn't want to make Obi-Wan into a gray area character. Maybe that was their logic behind, let's just keep the villainy over here with the guy in the black suit, that kind of thing.
I think by the time, I don't want to get off topic because it gets into the prequels.
No,
like
sure.
When I watched The Phantom Menace, like when I went to theaters to see The Phantom Menace, and I listened to Anakin Skywalker and Qui-Gon Jinn were talking, and he goes, "You're a Jedi." He goes, "Well, how do you know I didn't kill a Jedi to get this?" And I paused when Liam Neeson's Qui-Gon. I'm like, wait, what? Like, hold on there a minute. Like, it gave Qui-Gon was like a shade of gray to me a bit, even though he's like a Jedi. I'm like,
yeah,
this dude's weird. like, what was your reaction to Qui-Gon a bit?
Well, I thought he was a fairly strong character. But I will say that I didn't attach myself as much to the prequel characters as I did to the original three. Obviously, I just because I grew, I was fairly young when those first three movies came out, 17, 19, and 21, I think. Something like that. Or 17, 20, and 22, something like that. Anyway, so I was kind of merged with those characters at that point. The movies were interesting, and I like Liam Neeson. Love his work. Always liked to watch him. So I didn't have antipathy towards that character, but I wasn't as attached to it as I was the original, Jedi Padawan relationship.
Yeah,
but
I thought Darth Maul was a hell of a villain.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean, extremely dramatic. Yeah. Great, interesting in that respect. Yeah. So yeah, and also it helps establish that there's a whole line of these Darth characters. It's not just Darth Vader, that there's a school that are dark side Jedi sort of, and he's one of them. He's like the top guy at that point in time.
Yeah. When Darth Vader first stepped on screen, what did you think of him?
Great melodramatic villain. And of course the music that accompanies him when you first see him, it's, there it is. I just thought to myself, this is a real guy in a black hat, literally. He's got a whole black outfit on. He's got a black helmet on. He can't, it's an exoskeleton. So he's almost, and the idea that he's got immense power that he draws from the dark side of the Force makes him a formidable villain for anybody, And when he first comes out and he basically shows that power, he just waves his hand and the guy's choking and all this stuff is going on. It really establishes his primacy as the main villain. And that's what he is. So it's effective. It's very effective, and the costume is brilliant. And the reason for it is great. All of that's wonderful. And of course, James Earl Jones' voice is a stroke of genius. I mean, he was perfect for it. So.
Yeah, they didn't because the guy in the suit, they didn't like the voice.
No, they used him in filming, but then they dubbed over him with James Earl Jones so that the actors would have something to play off of.
Yeah.
So they didn't have James Earl Jones's voice to play off of. They just saw it on the screen like everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. Great decision.
Decision. It was a great decision. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, because I like the fact that they do get Peter Cushing here as General Tarkov. And he's like, when Vader's choking the one guy, I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Yes.
Vader release him. It's like Peter Cushing's telling Darth Vader what to do. Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ice water in his veins, basically.
Yeah.
You know the story about Peter Cushing? They couldn't get him a decent pair of shoes. The shoes were hurting him. They put him in slippers, and then they never shot him below the knees after that. He just was just too distracting. These shoes, they hurt. So
yeah, there was somebody. I think it was either on X or on Instagram. I forget where. Somebody had there was a photo of it or something. I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's legit or not. How legit the photo is, but I'm thinking when I read that today, I'm thinking that's interesting. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Which is cool. It's like
active comfort, man. It's important. You don't want to be distracted.
Right. I mean, you're trying to play this part, so.
The idea is the costumes have to be practical as well as look really good. They have to be. The actor has to be able to move well in whatever is created for them, or move the way that the character would move, at least.
I like how Mark Hamill's his character couldn't really see out the stormtrooper outfit.
Mm-hmm.
That's the line again. Which apparently he could. It wasn't very good. It's like, okay, what do you think of the stormtroopers' gun accuracy there?
Well, as with all things, the secondary villains usually aren't the ones that are going to do the real dirty work.
The movie would be over very quickly.
They're going to stumble and fail.
If that officer on the bridge had just thought, that's an escape pod. You know what? Shoot it anyway. I don't know what the hell's in there.
Right.
The movie would have been over.
That's right. End of play, as they say in the business.
Yeah.
And scene.
You know what I think happened? I think the stormtroopers, being that they work for the Empire, and they probably have these high-tech TVs, and they turned on Dark Shadows and saw Barnabas shoot, and they're like, that's how we need to shoot. Right there.
I have a theory. I think they scanned it for life forms, and when there were none, just assumed it was a misfire.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Well, I just think that the Imperial Stormtroopers training is a misfire, and a lot of they get friggin' mowed down, or they shoot. They'll do crossfire and still miss, which is damn near impossible.
So is Obi-Wan being a smartass when he says only stormtroopers are this accurate?
Yeah, I think so.
Or maybe his generation of stormtroopers were a little better off. Well, I don't know.
Well, they were.
Yeah,
they were because they were clone troopers, and they were genetically designed to be really good.
Yeah.
These are just guys.
That's right, and not necessarily true believers at that.
No, they're just guys.
As we find out from the latter day movies, they get sort of conscripted from all over the place.
Yeah. Patrick, what did you think of Darth Vader when you first saw him?
I thought he was a robot.
Yeah.
I was a kid and I thought he was a robot.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I thought he
Got
was.
this whole
You know,
unit on his chest. His face is completely covered by machinery.
I thought he was a robot, and I thought the stormtroopers were robots. Why would I not?
Right.
And you know, and I assumed that he was a robot who was trained by Obi-Wan. You know, it didn't even occur to me there was a guy in there.
Right.
Your Honor, I just ran my finger around that ring suddenly. Anyway, that yeah, I mean, he was a good villain, but and it's a big smelly but. He is the thug in the movie. He is Odd Job, and he has a funny send off. I will tell you this as someone who was in the theater tonight when I was watching it again. I thought about all of the places where there were laughs, big laughs. When Han Solo is chased again by the other stormtroopers going the other direction, and he's doing the same yell, huge laugh.
Yes.
And Darth Vader, when we see him, as the, as his pod is, flying
Spinning.
out of control.
Yes.
Yeah, that
High
got
five.
a big laugh. This is not your noble ending of a tragic hero who has re-encountered his long lost son ending.
No.
I think Lucas made all of that. So, I mean, he obviously made it all up, but I think he made it all up.
One of the words that I used when Jewel asked me this question was, he's a melodramatic villain. He's a villain out of a melodrama, which means sometimes it does that.
Yeah.
It's this crazy stuff. But he's also interestingly enough, for all of the things that you say, he achieves primacy of power as a villain. He has the most power inside of himself of any of the villains or would-be villains in that movie. So, and rightly so, because he's supposed to be the focus of threat of the Empire. So he's the trigger man of the Empire, really.
Yeah, I mean, make no mistake, Grand Moff Tarkin's the villain.
Yeah. He stays on the destroyer as it's
a moment, child.
Yeah,
it's wonderful. Well, that line really earns him his death. And there's got to be a real sort of Chuck Jones meet on the bridge of the Death Star the moment before that works.
Yeah.
What do you mean they went in?
Ow. Never mind.
Me?
Yeah. Yeah, you just need the coyote putting goodbye, like holding up the flag.
It really
Dynamite.
It's kind of a Wile E. Coyote ending.
Yeah, it is. Every way. It is a Wile E. Coyote ending. The old Roadrunner cartoons. Gosh. Who's your favorite character in the original movie?
C-3PO.
Yeah.
He's here's actually, when I was a kid, because I saw this thing God knows how many times in the theaters, double digits, every relative I could think of, because we all thought this would be the last time we might see this movie,
right?
Which is how life was back then.
That's right.
And so you had to see, because it was ephemeral, and I miss when movies were like that. There's much greater urgency to see it again or really enjoy it. And I forgot what I was going to say. What was your question, Jewel?
Who's your favorite character?
A favorite character. And it was funny. Every time I would see the movie, the first time I saw it, it was R2-D2 and C-3PO. No question. The gay couple. And then as every time I would see it, it would be a different character. Sometimes it'd be Chewbacca. I think Chewbacca is a great character. Really interesting. He's this engineer. He's very thoughtful, but he can, rip your arms off if you're not careful.
Go.
And Princess Leia's a racist because she doesn't give him a medal.
Yeah.
He works just as hard as any of the other ones, but he didn't get a medal. What do they have, a shortage of them?
Yeah.
And then she later says, I'd rather kiss a Wookiee. Well, what's wrong with that? He seems to be a well-groomed, hygienic character. His hair's always clean. This is the other thing I think. This is getting a little blue, but I think that Chewbacca, she was ready to get just walking away for this. That Chewbacca, when she was going to give him a medal, and he was aroused, because he's not
Oh,
wearing
yeah.
pants. He's so
Oh,
excited, and she's like, "Okay, maybe later, Chewie. This
hang it
is
right
later. I
over.
don't have a step stool."
Okay, down here.
But you
Okay.
you
Yeah.
notice they redressed that wrong in Rise of Skywalker.
Mm-mm.
No, he got his medal
He did.
at the end of the movie, and I loved that. That was a little throwaway,
Yeah.
but it meant so much to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alan, who's your favorite character?
My favorite character because, the first impression, first time I saw the movie, my favorite character was Han Solo because I'd never seen a reluctant hero like that before.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was fascinating to me, how he could be such an a-hole and then turn around and do something heroic.
Yeah.
You know, he was the original cynical kind of hero. He was in it for the money, but then he wasn't in it for the money and all of this sort of thing. So he was interesting to me in that way. He was not predictable. And when you see the movie for the first time, that's when you really see that.
And
You
wild
really
card.
see that. Yeah.
You know,
So,
sorry.
Yep. Nope. That would be probably my first, second, and third viewing on it. And then, I mean, that's probably the biggest impression that was ever made on me for the characters. It's not that the other characters aren't deserving of that. It's just that that's the one that grabbed me the most.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of old Westerns are reluctant heroes, if you will. Welcome to Hard Times. Henry Fonda's character isn't willing to really pick up a gun and shoot somebody. He says, hey, if you want to go be foolish and pick up a gun and go shoot somebody, go ahead. That's your decision. And then there's Fire Creek, where Jimmy Stewart plays a sheriff who chose the town because there was no trouble in it.
Right.
So here you're seeing a reluctant hero who has a lot more funny ways of dealing with it. And
Yeah, I mean, he's
humorous,
sly, and he's
Yeah.
clever in a lot of ways too. There's a good smattering of humorous situations that are kind of, he's in the middle of them. So yeah.
My favorite character was Darth Vader. I mean, he's a menace. I mean, he's fun to watch. The fact I was not expecting him to choke a member of his own party.
That's when you realize that he's serious about discipline.
Yes.
and also being obeyed.
Yeah.
No, he's the fascist guy. You know,
it makes the first officer that he's speaking to when he's walking through the Tantive 4, who's really giving Vader a hard time. He said, yeah, but what about this and what about that?
Yeah.
Come on, that guy either has no idea who he's talking to,
right,
or is really ballsy.
Yeah, it's either that, or his dad is in the council or something.
Here's a question. This is interesting. This really gets into some deep dish geekery. But when in the Phantom Menace, that's the first one, right? Episode 1. Yeah. When Qui-Gon Jinn is threatening the Jewish shopkeeper, and he tries to do his, and it doesn't work because he's immune due to plus 10 common sense.
Right.
I wonder if force choking would also not work on him.
Yeah.
Maybe not. If he has resistance to that, that's an aspect of the Force. Maybe he's generally resistant to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting point of view.
That's a movie. Boy, the racial cliches in that. Where the hell did that come from?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true. And that was one of the main criticisms of it, of course, because of the step and fetch it aspect of, And I actually thought that character was an innocent. I didn't really view him quite harshly. Yeah.
Watto is an innocent. He's a decent. He's an innocent character.
That's the way I viewed him. I didn't view him as much of that. But I can understand why some people would look at that and say, "Hey, wait a minute."
Well, I don't see those two things as being mutually exclusive.
No.
Yeah. Well, I was talking about Qui-Gon a bit too with Alan, that when I went to the theaters to see the Phantom Menace,
Phantom Dentist.
Yeah, Menace. When Anakin Skywalker as a boy and Qui-Gon are talking, he says, "You're a Jedi. You have a lightsaber." He goes, "How do you know I didn't kill a Jedi to get it?" And I'm like, "What?" That line there was like, I raised my eyebrows at Qui-Gon a bit. Like, you know, I always found this character very shades of gray a bit.
He has a past. I think that's
Yeah,
why
I mean,
he
like,
says things like that. He has a
you
past.
had bondage fantasies about Qui-Gon Jinn?
No.
Hot dripping wax, maybe. I don't know.
Oh my
Heated
god.
by a
Still.
lightsaber.
Oh my god.
But I was telling Jewel, I couldn't attach myself as closely as I could to the original characters to somebody like Qui-Gon, but I really like Liam Neeson, so it made it easier to sort of do that.
It took Batman Begins for him to finally get the mentor thing down.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Wow.
he finally got it down in that movie.
Yeah.
I love that
Yeah.
movie. That's great.
Yeah. Batman Begins, good movie.
Have you seen the satirical video, in that movie where Batman gets stabbed by Ra's al Ghul's daughter
Yeah.
in the second movie?
Uh-huh.
And they're in the city hall or whatever, and Bane is there too. They on YouTube, there's this whole video where they do this. It's other actors doing it, and they're doing a sort of a sly comedic version of it. And she goes, she stabs him, and she goes, "I bet you never thought blah blah blah." And he goes, "No, I never thought that after we made love so many times." He says, "That was all an act." I said, "It didn't seem like an act. The way you did such and such after I took my rubber suit off really seals in the flavor, doesn't it?" And so doing all of this stuff. And she's going, "Ah." So,
No, I've seen the Joker thing, the Joker interrogation video.
yes.
Where he does. I'm
Yes.
sorry, I don't understand you. Is that
Yeah.
Bat? Is he speaking in Bat?
What are you saying?
I mean, I know I'm crazy, but I can't understand.
Yeah, it's similar to that. It's that kind of thing, except it's a bit more off color.
Yeah. Favorite scene in this movie?
The duel.
Yeah.
And now as an adult, just the Alec Guinness in that duel with Vader and his treatment of Vader as he's nearing the end.
It also says so much about the Jedi ethos too, and the fatalism that the Jedi understand. It's like, we're not always going to be here. We have our fates to play out. Maybe you'll see us again, but not in this form. You get that sort of that ethos, that aesthetic out of all that stuff. And yes, it is, and it's also a demonstration of selflessness to that purpose.
Yeah, I mean that's to me, that's the heart of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's what really catalyzes Luke, because I think there's also a part of it where Obi-Wan thinks inspiring Luke isn't enough. I got to get him good and pissed off.
Yeah.
That's the missing element. Is he's got to be really, really pissed off.
He's to be PO'd, and he also has to have a sense of fearlessness about what he has to do.
Yeah.
And I think that comes full circle, in as much as some people don't like The Rise of Skywalker, I thought his ending was appropriate in that respect. Because he did essentially the same thing. He sacrificed himself.
Yeah. Is that your favorite scene, Alan, the duel?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good.
Mine
is
is
embodiment.
Yeah, mine is when Luke is on the farm and he's looking out onto the open plain and wondering, when will it be my time to get out of here. He's appreciative of his Uncle Ben and stuff, or Uncle Owen, I should say. But he wants adventure. He wants to leave, and so he does listen to his aunt and his uncle very much. He loves them, but it takes the murder, not just of his. I think the murder of his aunt and uncle are a very underrated thing in that movie.
Oh,
Also
absolutely.
very convenient.
Yeah, it is convenient. It's like, be careful what you wish for, because here it is.
Yeah, there they are.
Yeah.
I'll tell you though, related to this, I think a shitty thing that they did, and it's in Return of the Jedi, it really makes me mad, is not when the helmet came off, not having James Earl Jones in there.
Yeah.
Mm.
Why
You
not?
know, and so what? So when you make the next movies, it's a black actor. I don't see any problem with that.
No, I don't either, actually.
Yeah, and it also would have gone a long way, even though it's kind of retroactive towards the accusations, which is somewhat accurate, that where are the black people in this universe?
Very few of them, particularly in the first three films.
Well, that's why they brought in Billy D. Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you had more African Americans, biracials, Asians, and so on.
Sure. When they made the sequel trilogy, sure, yeah.
And also in the last two films as well.
Yes.
What's the name of the series? I'm trying to think of it.
SWAT.
No, it's on Disney Plus. It has these force sensitive kids who go on a ship or something. I forget the name of it.
I don't know.
Skeleton Crew. It's really good. Check it out. It's a Star Wars show. Has a lot of diversity.
That's right. That's the newest one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And that's the one with Jude Law in it.
Oh, what's he play?
I'm not sure. I haven't watched it yet. But he's kind of a shady character. But he's also like a force for good kind of guy. So
Jude Law is a very appropriate actor in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
I buy him in that.
Absolutely.
I've only seen the first episode so far. It looks good. So
I liked his role in the. A lot of people. I mean, the movie had its problems, but in the Captain Marvel movie, he plays the role of the mentor, her mentor.
Yeah.
In that. And she ends up. In that case, it's just like the hero's journey. She ends up putting him out of commission and taking off. So,
Yeah.
I mean, Jewel, Uncle Ben dying in Spider-Man. No, Jor-El dying in Superman.
Any of the Superman stories,
Yeah, I mean those, and then Pa Kent. Dying as well. I mean, I like the John Byrne touch that they did with Lois and Clark and all that, where they kept them alive, and I guess they did that into Smallville, and that's. I think that's ultimately a better move. He only needs one dead parent,
right?
But I think that he has this basis to come back to.
Well, I also think that the original intention of all of that may have come from the spirit of the creators of Superman, who were coming into they created him just before World War II. They already knew what was happening in Europe. Yeah. It's weird. The government of the United States didn't, but every Jewish person in America knew what was happening. And so that idea of loss, that fear of loss.
And
huge
that he can't stay on this Goyish Midwestern farm forever. He's got to go into the city and become the golem protecting the neighborhood, which is what he is. He's a golem protecting the neighborhood.
He is. Absolutely. And then later the world.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
The neighborhood I meant in
the larger
humanity.
Sense. Yeah.
What do you think they were getting letters from Europe from family members who were maybe over there?
Oh, yeah.
Some people were. Oh, definitely. And those, they would be read in synagogues and
people were moving away from that situation if they could.
Billy Wilder escaped.
Yeah.
And his relatives didn't.
Right. Yeah. And there were many, many more like that. That happened. That one or two individuals from a family left, and the rest of the family was. Yeah. So they knew what was going on, or the official, so-called official knowledge of it.
This movie's a straight 10. If you've ever seen it, Star Wars, the original movie.
Mm-hmm. It is an innovative vanguard of its time. It really is. Yeah. And it combines so many wonderful storytelling techniques in its final form that it's the standard, obviously, and some really fine Star Wars movies and television series, I think, in some cases have been made that honor that, but being the first.
Let me open it up.
First. Is the
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. Is there anything you guys want to add about this movie before we go?
You know, it's a Joel. I'm glad that you give time for the little sleeper hits, and I think with enough attention like this, Star Wars may become something. I think it's got a future.
It's got a spine.
It
It's got a
does.
spine.
Well, it's a very interesting franchise. I mean, that's what it's become. And really, I mean, hey, maybe we'll get even more interesting movies. We won't know.
Well, the Star Wars franchise has shown that it is strong, even when mistakes have been made. You know, it's incredibly strong. It's resilient. It's malleable in some ways, which is what makes it strong. It's able to, kind of spread its wings, spread out there a little bit, take risks. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes it doesn't work. Other times it works really incredibly well. So that's a good thing. That's how a franchise should live and continue to be alive, rather than let's do all of the stuff that's safe all the time. If you do the safe stuff all the time, it starts to get stale. So I'm happy with what's happening with the franchise right now.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I wish I had gone to that hotel. As much as a disaster as it probably was, I wish I had gotten to go.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What do you guys want to do tomorrow? Anything? Nothing?
I have a suggestion: Murder by Death.
Okay.
Awesome.
It's
We'll do-
okay, Alan. I knew you would like that movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's really good.
Absolutely. It's a fun ride. I think you'll love it, Joel.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll do Murder by 10:30, our usual time.
10:30.
Sounds good.
Link to Alan Glant's YouTube channel, Collins Sport After Dark, will be in the description box. Link to Patrick McCray's Dark Shadows Day Book Unbound will be in the description box, so pick it up if you haven't already. I'm Joel Sage. Guys, have a good night, and tell both your dads I said Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Oh. Thank you, gentlemen.
Bye.